Okay, let's do this! Here we go! Oh, it's finally time! Oh, thanks to you, it's the game revival you helped come true!
How's it going, guys? I was really hyped for the release of Yooka-Laylee. As someone who grew up with games like Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64, the idea of some of the former artists and developers getting together and working on another collectathon type game was really exciting for me. I gave to the Kickstarter and threw enough money at them to ensure that I got an early copy, and I was waiting and just so excited for something that I was sure was going to be reminiscent of the old Rareware games that I used to love back in the 90s and early noughties. And on the face of it, Yooka-Laylee takes the template of Banjo-Kazooie and tries to replicate it almost exactly, and that's not a bad thing, because despite being nearly 20 years old, Banjo still holds up as one of the best 3D platformers of all time, and if you're trying to copy it, that should go pretty well for you. So Playtonic Games took the Banjo formula and they tried to bring it to next gen. So you've got the bumbling, helpful protagonist, you've got his crass, sarcastic accomplice, and you've got a villain who rhymes with every sentence. So aside from the looks, the characters are pretty much carbon copies of the old games. And this is one of the best parts of Yooka-Laylee. The characters come out with their own brand of kind of humour, and parts of it give you a chuckle here and there, and that's what really you're kind of asking for. You've got Rextro, the arcade dinosaur, because you know he's a relic from games gone past, and obviously there was lower memory in older consoles, so he has low memory and forgets who you are, and it's kind of funny stuff like that. And there are other risque lines that actually made me and caught me off guard. While you're here, why don't you fondle my petals for a bit? Gameplay wise, instead of having notes, you've got quills, and instead of having jiggies, you've got pages. And that's what these games are about, that's what they focus on, collecting all of the items, trying to get that 100% completion, and hearing that little jingle every time you pick something. That's really cool. There's also variation. So in Banjo-Kazooie you had the witch doctor Mumbo, and he was able to transform you into different items like a pumpkin or different things like that. In this game you've got a mad scientist with some sort of ray, and that changes you into different things as well, and that helps you access different areas. So it's pretty much, again, a carbon copy. You can also play the arcade games with Rextro, which gives kind of a bit of a change of pace to the game. So instead of exploring the world, you jump into the arcade game and play something different, and you try to win a pagey there. So all the ingredients are there for like a really fun, addicting game, but unfortunately something went wrong with the recipe somewhere along the line. So first off, in a platforming game, the most important thing is to have tight controls. So while Yooka-Laylee's control scheme isn't dire, it just doesn't feel perfect. And asking for perfection may be a big ask, but when you consider the pedigree from which this game is from, and people who've worked on things like Donkey Kong 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, it shouldn't be that much of a tall order. The swimming controls are something I've never experienced in a game before. You've got one button to dive and one to rise, and that may not sound ridiculous, but it does kind of raise the question from me, why change a method that's been working solidly since Mario 64 over 20 years ago? You know, and sometimes the controls are just finicky, they just kind of don't feel tight. Trying to drive the snowplow on the snow level was a pretty traumatic experience. Oh my god, the fucking turning circle on this motherfucker. No! You can't go forward or back. You can't like turn without going forward. Look, see, that was me pressing back. And it wants me to go like... See, now I'm fucked. Stupid ass game. Now I could forgive the controls and just put that off to maybe some odd handling on some of the characters, but the thing, and that's really holding off the game for being a perfect platformer, is the camera, which at times is absolutely awful. So 3D platforming started off with Mario 64 introducing the 3D camera that can rotate around you, and that's been what's used for years and years to come for many games. And back then on the N64 you had to use the 4C buttons. These days you've got 2 sticks on controllers, and that in theory gives you a smoother camera to just transition around your character, but the game really struggles with this concept. So if controls are the most important thing in platformers, camera is pretty much a close second. and it makes the game unnecessarily annoying at times. I just want you to witness, I'm not moving anything. You can see my finger, I'm literally holding back, and that's what happens. Because as the camera angle changes, your direction changes, and you just keep doing that. It's fucking dumb. Now, of course, this didn't happen 100% at the time, but the fact that it happened at all detracted from me trying to enjoy the game, which otherwise I was actually enjoying and having fun with. It's like going to a posh restaurant and having a 5-star meal, but every 10 minutes the waiter comes up to you and pokes you in the ear. Like, it doesn't make the food any worse, the food is still nice, but it makes you question if you're going to stick around for dessert. The most important thing, I think, is quality over quantity in video games. Right? Sometimes these days is that people think bigger is better. So games like GTA over the years have gone from having these kind of large areas to absolutely enormous areas, and they pride themselves on making bigger and bigger environments with more stuff in each game, and that works for GTA. So recently Breath of the Wild, the latest Zelda game, showed how to make a huge sprawling environment but also keep enough content in the areas and enough items of interest to make exploring actually exciting when you're walking around. Yooka-Laylee only has 5 worlds, and that's fine. And a feature of this game is the ability to expand the world. So once you've got enough pages, you can make each area bigger with new doors and places to access. And that's interesting at first. It makes you think, oh, I'm going to go back to that world and find more stuff of interest. But after a while, it just makes the area seem more sparse. More than once, I found myself just wandering around looking for something to do. Banjo-Kazooie had large worlds with a lot of stuff to explore, but every nook and cranny had something of interest, either a character to talk to or a challenge to undertake. When you went through a doorway into a different building, you knew there was going to be a puzzle or a fight that was about to happen, something exciting, something new. This isn't true of Yooka-Laylee. Some rooms just have like a snowman, and it's part of a quest, but it's not much interest. And you have something like the isometric palace, which is a funny play on words because of the fact that it's icy and the fact of the camera angle, but in the end it's just a maze of pointless rooms that you just tire of and you're just wondering, do I have to go through this any longer? This is shown in the difference in the number of collectibles in the game. So in Banjo-Kazooie you've got 100 notes on 10 jiggies per world. It's pretty straight-faced. In Yooka-Laylee it's double things. You've got 200 quills, you've got 25 pages per world. So you've got these massive worlds with more space to fill, and you've got a lot more pages. So some of the pages just seem really simple and easy to collect. Easiest page of my life. Oh, it's like it's not even trying. It's one of the biggest criticisms of this game, is that a lot of people have said it's too easy. Now, as a platforming veteran, I've been playing games and platformers since I was about 3 or 4 years old, and I was expecting to take like a duck to water this game, but you know, I expect a challenge. Even some of the old platformers have that odd star or that odd golden banana or something like that that you always want to try and get, and you always have to try a few times to get it. But for most of the time in Yooka-Laylee, I just felt I was going through the motions. A perfect example would be the arcade games from Rextro. So it's inspired by the arcade machine from Donkey Kong 64, where you could play the retro Donkey Kong, and it was really challenging. You really had to try hard to try and complete it and get the reward. And that was intense and made you work hard. But in this game, it's just kind of simple. So you win a pagey for completing the arcade game, and then you get another one for beating Rextro's high score. But most of the time, I was finding that in my first attempt, I was already comfortably beating the high score. I scored 1400 points. I beat that last time anyway. It should be easy. When you come over to the boss fights, there's one boss per world, and some of them were interesting and added new levels of challenge for every hit that they took, and it made the fights kind of dynamic and made you actually have to think of what you're going to do next. But some of them were just really simple and just seemed like a chore more than actually something that was supposed to be designed as the pinnacle of each world. I think the best example of things that were done wrong in Yooka-Laylee that tried to emulate Banjo-Kazooie is the quiz. So at the end of Banjo-Kazooie there was this huge quiz that came from Gruntilda. It had questions based on areas that you'd seen in the game, if you could recognise them from pictures, sounds that you'd heard, and characters that you'd spoken to. There was different tiles, and depending on what tile you landed on, you had to do different questions, and you had different rewards and different punishments. And it acted like a nostalgic celebration of the game you just played, like a little refresher of all the stuff you'd been through before you had to face the final battle. In Yooka-Laylee, they tried to bring in something similar, but you're just hit with this kind of drab quiz really early on, and there's more later. There's no special tiles, no funny rules. You basically move forward if you answer a question, and you lose a life if you don't answer a question correctly. And even the questions make it seem more like a test to see if you've been awake during the worlds, asking how many specific item you collected in each world, and it was just kind of, oh, okay. Overall, the game's fun. I mean, if you're a fan of Banjo-Kazooie back in the 1990s, then this game will turn on the nostalgia center in your brain, and you'll just get some enjoyment for the hours that it takes to play through the game. Its flaws don't change the fact that the gameplay itself is solid, but it does diminish the level of enjoyment you should be getting out of it. That's what frustrates me so much since more, and this is why this is kind of a rant for you, because I can see where this game could have been, and with the amount of support it got, I'm surprised it didn't get there, and the experience that these guys have, I would have expected these small things to make the game slightly more enjoyable. If you're not a fan of collectathons, you know, things like Banjo-Kazooie or DK64 or Mario, then you might be put off by the fact that it's €40 to buy. So, from my opinion, do yourself a favour and look up Banjo-Kazooie, try it out. If you play that and you enjoy those kind of games and you complete it and you think, I want more of this, pick up Yooka-Laylee, because, you know, it's kind of more of the same, just not as polished. So overall, I give the game a 6 out of 10. Like, it's potentially 8 out of 10 or higher if they just fix these issues. And I'm not giving up hope on Playtonic Games. I'm hoping for something like a Yooka-Laylee to come out and fix these issues and make it an even greater game and kind of give the spiritual successor to Banjo that we've all been expecting. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you next time.